We have 3 new animal rescue stories to tell you about today. Each one's going to touch your heart and is going to show you the power of unconditional love.
So join us for another edition of America's Best Tales. It's coming your way next.
Hi everyone, I'm Arthur E. Benjamin and I'm here with Farah, I don't know your middle initial, White, and Bandit. And Bandit wants to play.
Bandit always wants to play. Each week you'll hear 3 incredible animal rescue stories, and at the end of the show we'll decide, or actually I think we decided the Oracle will decide which story touched us the most. And then they'll receive a prize for their favorite animal rescue organization.
So welcome to America's Best Tales. But before we begin, Farah, I really have to talk about a submission we got all the way from Australia.
Wow.
A woman by the name of Ellie Harris sent us a picture of her beautiful dogs, these incredible, beautiful dogs, and they want to adopt another dog from Soy Dogs in Thailand, an organization that fights the horrible trade of shame of capturing. This happens in the countries around Thailand.
Well, now, weren't you in Thailand with Hillary Clinton?
I was in Thailand just after the State Department trip to Indonesia, and I was in Thailand, and I did visit Soy Dogs, and they fight this horrible trade of shame where they steal people's pets and turn them into for sale for food in the
is just la, la,
Southeast.
la, la.
I know. It's terrible, but what they want to do is adopt a dog. The only way to get the dog from Thailand into Australia is to bring it here to the Dallas area with us. So we're looking for a foster family who wants to adopt that dog, foster the dog for 6 months, and then it will be shipped into Australia to be with Ellie Harris and her family and those dogs. So if you're interested in fostering a dog for 6 months that's come from Thailand, that they are going to go to Thailand personally and pick out, we have a great opportunity for you to be part of this international story that we're hoping will be covered here in Dallas in the press, nationally in the U.S., in Australia and nationally, and help end the trade of shame.
And that would be incredible.
So if you want to volunteer, email us at www.americandogrescue.org. You can email it to me, Arthur at americandogrescue.org, or call us at our phone number, which is up on the screen, and we'll hook you up for the love of dogs.
Yeah, absolutely we will, and that would be a wonderful thing. Now, if you have a story that you want to share with us, or an organization that we need to have brought to our attention, please go to americandogrescue.org and email us. So, should we get started on today's show?
Well, let's go.
Okay. Our first contestant today is Kirby. And Kirby is unfortunately no longer with us, but he made such a huge impact on Jeff Kitner and his family that Jeff is here today with Dudley and Kimberly Jenkins, who's representing EARS, the organization that brought Jeff and Kirby together. Welcome, you guys, and thank you both so much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
And this handsome gentleman, Dudley, who's so well behaved.
And very handsome.
Now, can you tell us more about him?
Sure. Well, Dudley is a dog that we got from the Garland shelter. But Dudley's story really begins with the story about Kirby, the first dog that y'all referenced. And I grew up without ever having dogs. I didn't really know the love that dogs could provide. And so after my wife and I got married, she encouraged me to look at getting dogs. And I was pretty ambivalent about the process. And she started looking on Pet Finder for dogs that were in shelters or with rescue groups. And she saw the picture of Kirby, who was posted with EARS, Kimberly's organization, and said, we just need to go look at this dog. So we went to go look at Kirby, and he's a very unusual looking dog. He's he was listed as a Cardigan King Charles Spaniel's mix, but there's no telling what he actually was. And so we went to go visit him and at one of the EARS adoption events, and just immediately became friends with him. He was just, we decided immediately that we wanted to adopt him, and he came and he lived with us.
So what you're really saying is your wife wanted to overcome your deprived childhood by finding you a dog.
That's correct. She did. And we found Kirby. And when we went to go look at him, one of the EARS volunteers told us that he was 3 years old. And not knowing anything about dogs, not ever having had dogs before, I assumed that was correct. And as we got to know Kirby, we learned that he was not 3. He was probably closer to 13 years old. And definitely, didn't have the activity level that a younger dog would. But we still would go on walks every day, and he really just became a very fast, a great member of our family. We loved having him.
And Kirby's story is so good, except for the part that we thought he was a much younger dog than it turned out that he was. But we got a call from a local animal shelter, and Kirby had come in as a stray, and he needed a dental, and he was just, the shelter workers were in love with him, but they didn't have space after his stray hold was up, and so he was slated to be euthanized. And so thankfully we had a foster home open that took him in. One of our directors took him in, and he played and played and played and had such a great time. And it was so sweet. The day that Jeff and Miriam came to meet him at the event, they looked at him, then he went back in his crate, and Kirby just kept looking on and on at them going, well, wait, why aren't you taking me now? And so it was, apparently that look really stayed with them, and they kept kind of coming back even after they looked at other dogs, and so that turned out to be a really good match. And they decided that no matter what his age was, that was the match that they were supposed to have.
Well, we need to teach the other dogs at all rescue organizations.
Exactly.
That look.
We need that.
And we would have taken Kirby no matter how old he was, because when we met him, there was that instant connection. And like Kimberly said, we took him out, we walked him around for a couple of minutes, and when we put him back in the crate, you could just tell how sad he was. And he just, right away, there was a connection that he and I had that, and Dudley and I have the same exact type connection that really is just amazing, that I never experienced before growing up. And I'm so glad that my wife nudged me to go look at dogs, and that
wives are so good like
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
Well,
Knowing what you need.
We're going to let these two play with each other for a second.
Yeah, we should.
Before
Because
the end of
otherwise
the
Dudley's
segment.
about to fall
Dudley,
asleep.
Yes.
wake up, Dudley. Here you go.
But what
a good
is
guy.
so nice is Jeff and his wife Miriam became very active in animal rescue with our organization through that one dog, Kirby. And so it's amazing that one dog can make that much of a difference, and how many animals they've been able to help since then. And then after Kirby lived with you for
2 years.
2 years. And then after that, when they were, which it was really sad when he passed away, and we were all very sad.
That is always a really sad time. Well, thank you so much for telling us your amazing story, and thank you so much for being here. And if you want to learn more about EARS, go to earstexas.org. Coming up next, we'll meet Nutmeg, our second contestant. You're watching America's Best Tales. Stay with us. Welcome back to America's Best Tales. Now, we've already heard the story of Kirby and Dudley, and next up is Nutmeg.
You know, Nutmeg is another story of a failed foster. Kathryn Lorusso first fostered Nutmeg and later adopted her through GALT, the Greyhound Adoption League of Texas. That's a mouthful. Stephanie Lanou is also here representing that great organization. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Now, Kathryn, can you tell us Nutmeg's story?
I can. Nutmeg was abandoned in a trailer in the parking lot of 7-Eleven in Wichita Falls, along with 10 other mixed breed dogs, and whoever it was that drove the trailer in there walked away and never came back. So the dogs were left in there for about 40 hours until somebody found them, and then a nice news station put her story together and aired it, and I actually watched the video on Facebook. And GALT got involved, the Greyhound Adoption League, drove up there, got the dogs, processed them, and started trying to vet them and get them adopted out.
They had some sort of special name, those 11 dogs, didn't they? They called them something?
Thank Heaven 11.
Thank Heaven 11.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good name. Now, and Nutmeg helped you get through the loss of another dog.
Yes. We first adopted our Greyhound about 5 years ago, our first one. His name was Bravo. And he was the best dog I think I've ever met. He was beautiful. He was a giant of a dog. He looked like a mix between a Greyhound, a Great Dane, and a Dalmatian. I mean, nobody really knew how or what he was when they first saw him. But he died of osteosarcoma, and it broke my heart. And I thought I would never adopt again, but here I am.
So it's harder to find homes for greyhounds, isn't it, than other breeds?
Actually, no. I used to volunteer and foster for another group in the Metroplex, and we did, and it was labs, and we'd do the same number of adoptions as labs, and this is lab country here in Texas, you know, retrievers, and GALT does about 200 adoptions a year.
Wow, that's
pretty good.
That is a lot.
Yeah.
That's great. And Stephanie, I mean, you're here representing GALT. Can you tell us a little bit about the organization?
All volunteer. We get no federal funding or anything like that. We have an operating budget of about $250,000, believe it or not. We get dogs in horrible shape. When you first saw Nutmeg, she was emaciated, she was heartworm positive, and that is a very expensive treatment in itself. I mean, it can run upwards of $750. And she's just one of 60, 65 dogs in the program at any given time. We get lots of broken legs too.
Is this particular color very prevalent?
Very common.
It is?
Yeah. I don't know that there's one color that's more common over another in greyhounds, but we do see quite a few brindles. She's a lemon brindle in particular.
Our lemon tiger.
So what has she really meant to you, having her around?
She is the injection of sunshine in my house. At any given moment, I will walk around and her mouth is open, her eyes are wide, her ears are up. She is so excited to be alive. I can just look at her and think, okay, I need to be grateful. My life is so great. She has been through hell and back, and she is happy every second of her day. So I look at her and then we're happy. You know, I'm happy, everybody in my house is happy. She is joy in the shape of a dog. And she has no reason to be that way. You know, she came from a nightmare. She almost died. But, you know, she doesn't think about those things. And I think that if we were all more like that, we'd all be better off. So she reminds me of that every day.
We all need a little Nutmeg in our life.
We do.
Now, did you realize how special Kathryn and Nutmeg's situation was going to
absolutely,
be?
absolutely. Kathryn lives down the street from me, and I tried to get her to foster over, you know, over the course of about 6 months or so. And finally, you know, so she saw the Thank Heaven 11 story and said, oh, I want to foster the brindle dog in that package.
She's
and
beautiful.
So I would go let the dogs out in the middle of the day and help her out with it. And, you know, the further she went along in her treatment, the more I thought, this is a nice dog, Kathryn. You really need to think about this dog.
So what did you do? You texted me pictures of her laying in her crate in my house like Cleopatra, you know, on her barge.
Not a care in the world.
And she'd be like, you know you need this dog. You want this dog. You must have this dog. She was doing like brain control, mind
Even
control.
though she already had 3, but, you know, Nutmeg just needed to be a part of the house.
Well, she's like, she's tall and elegant. You're tall.
That's
and elegant.
right. That's right.
I finally just gave in. All right.
This is a case of the owner looking like the pet. You know, the tall and elegant and graceful.
Right, in the coloring. And you're both beautiful.
Twins.
Twins.
Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito.
So great. So Nutmeg is here representing GALT, the Greyhound Adoption League of Texas. You can learn more by going to greyhoundadoptiontexas.org, which is actually greyhoundadoptiontx.org.
But we'll be right back to pick our to show the final story, and then we'll be back to pick the winner of today's show, or at least Bandit will. So don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back to America's Best Tales. We're inching closer to me making the decision of who the best rescue story is. You know, these people up here are my puppets. You remember the story of Barley?
Yes, our third rescue story.
Yes, and here's Barley.
He's actually here with his mom, Susan Blatz, and Tawana Couch with Society for Companion Animals. Thank you so much, both of you guys, for being here.
Thanks for having us.
So, Susan, what is Barley's story?
Well, he was found by clients of mine eating out of the garbage on by Love Field, and they actually stopped and picked him up. And then they couldn't find a place for him, so they called me, and I said I would foster him. I called a friend in a foster group, and she said she'd take us in. And he has such a great disposition. He's such a great dog. He got along with everybody in the house. I thought, snap, he's going to be adopted in no time. Basically 2 years later, and many meet and greets every weekend, I started taking him to restaurants. I started dressing him up, which is actually not something I do, but we were getting he just needed to be noticed. There is something called black dog syndrome, where people really just don't see the black dogs. They don't. So we'd be at the meet and greets, and he'd be laying there perfectly. People be stepping over him to like see the fluffy dogs or the, you know, purebred dogs. And I even taught him to sit to greet, which I thought was brilliant because that's what most people want. But everybody, so he'd sit, you know, somebody'd say, "Oh, look," and he'd sit and they'd say, "I don't think he likes me,"
It sounds
because
like
he
Barley
wasn't
had
jumping
other
on
plans.
him. You know, a few people had said that. Like, I think he's yours. And I was like, no, no, I'm fostering. So, you know, after I even did a little tableau one time with a Coleman dog sleeping bag, and I put a little lantern and a fake. I mean, it was like, this dog could be camping with you in a heartbeat. But no takers, no nothing. In the meantime, I had fostered several dogs through my house, and he is the rule enforcer at the house. And I saw that he was helping the foster dogs know what not to do, what to do, and he was getting in between them in trouble. And the best thing he does is tell on them. So someone's got something, he starts a low whine, and then his tail starts wagging. He's like, oh, this isn't good. And I start looking around, okay, what's happening? Who's got what? And if it's something really bad, like a shoe, his teeth start chattering. And you go, this isn't good here. And so I can come running out, who's got the shoe? Who, what are we going? And at that point, he usually jumps in front of the dog that's doing it. Like, and I go, oh, I knew it was you.
That is hysterical.
So I feel like, you know, we've been to every restaurant patio and every meet and greet, and he's definitely mine, and he was a huge asset to being able to foster. So I think he's kind of doing a payback. You know, I saved him, nobody wanted him, and maybe it was that he was always meant to be mine, and I was the only one who didn't notice.
Yeah.
Because he's got a heart of gold underneath this little black outfit he's got on.
Oh,
Tawana, what's so special about Barley?
Well, I think Susan said it best when she said a place for a black dog. I mean, you have to look beyond the color, and underneath the black color is the heart of gold. And you can tell, I mean, he's absolutely phenomenal. He's well behaved. He's, you know, alert, attentive, and you can tell he's a very, very special dog. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's funny, and I do think he only had eyes for you. And if he makes fostering for you easier, then that's probably just helping all of the other dogs you can foster.
No, he's definitely found his job. I wouldn't have known it, though. I thought he needed a house to get special attention because he was so special, but in fact, he needed to have a job.
Yeah, and it sounds like he's great at it.
He is great
So
at
that really is funny, and you doing the imitation of him doing his stuff is actually wonderful. Now, how long have you guys known each other?
Oh, wow. At least probably 15 years.
Oh, nice.
And I met Susan. I had 2 dogs that needed some behavior training. And I met Susan, and I learned then there's a big difference between an animal behaviorist versus an animal trainer, in my opinion. And Susan is a behaviorist. And she can just get into the psychology thinking of these dogs, especially rescue dogs. And, you know, a lot of people out there, they get the dogs and it's like they have problems, behavior issues, and a lot of people don't realize consult a behaviorist. Susan, in my opinion, and I've worked with other trainers, behaviorists, is absolutely the best behaviorist I've found.
Well, that's awesome, and
She
clearly
is
you have an incredibly well-behaved dog.
Well, it takes a special person to sit out in the middle of a yard with treats and.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Tawana, we
Well,
already know.
let me
it's
tell
not
you.
one-way
Let me tell you a
street.
wild story. When I first met Susan, I thought, okay, this woman I know is supposed to be really good, and I had a wild feral dog, and she says, well, you have to go out every day and sit in your backyard and get the dog used to you, because I couldn't touch the dog. The dog would not come near me. In my backyard, couldn't even touch it. And anyway, for 4 months, I did what Susan said, and I would spend 1 hour to 2 hours out in my backyard in the freezing cold, rain, sleet, and sit there and go, act like I didn't even notice the dog, and let the dog start getting used to me.
Oh, well, and sometimes you have to do that, right? And then they will come up if you're not trying to get them. If you try to get them, sometimes they'll run away. Well, Tawana, you're amazing. Both of you guys, thank you for being here. Barley is here today representing Society for Companion Animals. You can find out more by logging on to societyforcompanionanimals.org. Welcome back to America's Best Tales, and it's the moment of truth, right, Dudley? Moment of truth.
Look at that.
Moment of truth.
Look at that.
We're about to pick our first winning story in our show.
Oh, good boy,
After
Dudley.
Arthur does this, which is so cute.
Good boy.
The winner will not only win the $1,000 today, but will be eligible for our grand prize of $5,000 at the end of the year.
So let's review our stories, okay?
Yes,
and
I'm gonna
let's
give
get
you
you
Bandit.
untangled if we can.
Untangle me.
I think you're tying up.
I have it.
There's Kirby and Dudley,
Yes.
who found their home through Ears.
Yes.
There's Nutmeg, representing the Greyhound Adoption League of Texas, and
There's also Barley, who's also a foster failure that's here on behalf of Society for Companion Animals.
now we're going to reveal our winners. The third place prize gets a check for $250, and the second place prize gets a check for $500. And the Oracle couldn't make a decision between all three, even though he was a little jealous that Dudley ate his treat.
Well, and he was jealous of what just happened. And it's funny because oracles don't have to follow rules.
Well, that's true. So he's broken the rules.
He's broken the rules.
And what we're going to do today, according to Bandit, is we're going to share
Yes.
the third and second prize equally
Yes.
between Dudley and Nutmeg.
Yes. So Dudley and Nutmeg are actually going to get equal prize amount instead of 200. Let me give you 2 and 3. There you go.
So there's 2 and 3, and these are not edible. So you'll have to
Yes.
celebrate them together.
Okay.
However,
And
look
Dudley,
what you get.
Oh, good boy.
good boy.
Is that what you wanted?
And Nutmeg
Nutmeg is the
gets
girl.
a good girl.
So she gets a
Nutmeg.
beautiful, healthy dog cookie.
Nutmeg, you take that for later.
If you don't eat it, I will.
Dudley.
Good.
Which means that our number 1 prize is going to go to this chatty-toothed dog, Barley.
And Barley won the prize because Barley has done for other rescues what each of Nutmeg and Dudley have done for us. And so it was a very hard decision because all 3 stories were absolutely wonderful. And Bandit truly, as a rescue dog and a failed forester himself, the failed forester thing led a little bit, I mean, I think, but there was some influence of that psychic phenomenon you have too, so we're wondering whether it was put into his mind. But he decided.
No, we don't know. We don't know. And the carrot thing, you know, that threw everything off.
It did. But thank you all for being
Yes.
here. This has been another fabulous day of stories.
Wow.
Absolutely. So money to all charities, 3
Money.
winners.
3
Everyone's a
winners,
winner.
and the first place prize gets to come back and compete at the end of the year for
Absolutely.
a $5,000 prize.
Wow.
Which will be chosen amongst our first prize winners from each of the 4 Best in Show.
So congratulations to everyone. That's all the time we have for today, but join us next week for 3 new animal rescue stories. And find out more about America's Best Tales and For the Love of Dogs at AmericanDogRescue.org.
And find out whether Bandit gets the carrot from Dudley. But we'll be gone, so we'll never know.
That's right. The saga will continue. Be sure and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube.
Well, I'm Arthur E. Benjamin with Farrah White and Bandit. We're thrilled to be here and present America's Best Tales. See you next time.
See you next time.